speaker today.
Thank you very much. Vera, thank you very much. Asante sana. We may sit kindly. The Kenyan community and diaspora in the UK, led by all our leaders, especially my colleague here, Councillor Kimani, Councillor hapa UK. Watu ni maajabu sana. Madam Janet, of course, Modoni, our pastor, and all the other leaders, including the sponsors. Good evening. Habari zenu? Buyamuri. Buyamuri naende. Muriega. Muriega fiyo. Nimeona Wakenya ni wengi hapa, and that is there any other salam that I should say? Africa is our business. Thank you very much. I have seen the face of Kenya is here. That is why I decided to pick up two to represent all the others. I first of all want to really be grateful and thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I was coming here because I was following up some issues about some program I'm doing at the London School of Economics. And Bura was told by one of the people who saw me, I think at Heathrow here airport, or Nairobi, that I'm headed here. And she got in touch, and I really want to thank you, Bura, for organizing this in actually only 2 days. There was no other day that there was a mention about this event before Saturday. And therefore, this is very phenomenal, seeing the hall is already full with Kenyans and Africans and also citizens of the UK coming so that we can interact and learn from each other. I came here with a friend of mine called Wamwere. Wamwere, tafadhali amka. Wamwere is a teacher here, but he was my classmate in KU. So, na wanasema akili ni nywele. You can see he has enough. Lakini Bura kuna kitu hakunichanua. That I am coming here and I should have bought a suit. At least to appear like a serious person. But I'm happy that we are serious already. So I am very glad to be here. And as Janet put it, this is not a lecture. I give my opinions, considered ones, and then I'll take some time to also interact in terms of questions, because this kind of talk should be output-based. And output-based is a person who came here, I am sure never came here for entertainment. And that is why an open forum at the end is important, so that we can interact and sharpen each other, because the reason I'm holding the mic doesn't mean that I know everything. It means that we all came to learn. Bura, ebu amuka tafadhali. Please clap for this girl. You know, Janet amesema umri wa huyu msichana ni wa chini sana. And she's been running up and down, calling me, organizing. We actually met on Saturday just to be sure. We were just chatting, so I needed to see the person. And I saw a very serious young lady. So we wish you all the best and keep up. Asante sana. And of course, to all the sponsors, we salute you because you have given up your resources also to see this successful. I want to talk about investment and the topic you called me to speak about. But it's important that I give you a small story about this gentleman here called Wamwere, which is tied to why we are meeting here today. We joined KU the same day, Kenyatta University. And when we joined in our first year, I was determined to do two things in my university life. One is to form a basis to be a leader. My number two, to form a basis to be a serious entrepreneur later in my life. So my mind was clear-cut when I was joining there. And in our first semester, like many of us do in public universities, I spent my help to pay the school fees for my year, my first year. Help your first semester. The second semester, which starts when the calendar year is starting. You know, our universities, academic year starts in November, in September. So second semester starts in January. So we opened for our second semester in our first year. And after opening, I decided it's time now to pick up the dream that I had for the twin dream. So the one that came first was for me to start a business. It was around this timing of January, Feb. So my help of second semester, nikachukua, and then I borrowed Wamwere his help, which he gladly gave me, of course, to return later. I don't know whether I returned. You'll tell me. And we started like a hotel and a place called KM. I actually called it Vatican Cave. I was in first year, second semester then. And I'm giving you this story because it will be relevant later this week. It will be very relevant to all of us. Because with Wamwere, those who, I'm sure you know KU, the main campus. So we took some bus with Wamwere one morning. We went to Nairobi City. We were from the village. We are people who came to Nairobi to study. We had not come earlier. Maybe visiting an uncle once or twice in the entire lifetime. So we were there now. Tumetoka Geshagi with Wamwere. So on a February, one day in February, we went to Nairobi City. Then we arrived there. We were going to Gikoba to buy sufurias for my hotel. And then upon kufika Nairobi, we realized like Nairobi nowadays had the uniform. I mean by then, because everyone was either in red, black, everything was coalescing around red and black. So as tukaenda Gikoba, we bought our sufurias, tukawekelea kwa matatu, tukakuja nazo. Where the KU buses or matatus are picked is near Rudhuri Avenue. So Amwere told me, let's pass by some place here, some shop that was selling phone accessories. We say hi to my girlfriend. First of all, to me, Wamwere looked very sophisticated to already have a girlfriend. So we passed by there carrying sufurias. But let me tell Wamwere today here because he's now living in the UK. So I could tell, Wamwere is telling me this is the girlfriend, but I could tell the body language was off. Because the lady was looking at us, but she was still busy in the kiosk. So we were carrying sufurias. So Wamwere was saying something, the lady replied very dismissively. So we went and took our buses back to KU. Later on, after a few weeks, as it should be, Wamwere was dumped. We later came to realize this day that Nairobi was full of red was actually Valentine's Day. We came to realize later. So Wamwere's girlfriend in quotes then was wondering. So this fellow tells me he's taking education in KU. And this other fellow is taking economics. So the lady was wondering, which is this economics that people learn through sufurias? And Wamwere from there, maneno yake ikaharibika. So we connected because he's been here in the UK for, I think this is the second or third year as a teacher. And the kind of talk we have had with Wamwere here is a talk I would really want one day we have a forum for the Kenyans who are watching us online to also learn from us who are living here in the UK. And I'll say it plainly because I know there are many watching us. That opportunities currently, the world is a global village. We are too interconnected to have functions and to lock ourselves in some geographical areas. The kind of salary Wamwere is getting here, even when I know, yes, the cost of living is also high, doing exactly what you'll be doing in Kenya as a teacher, Wamwere's salary can employ teachers in an entire school in Kenya. So what I mean is that this kind of opportunities that we have in such a place, I wish that even one day we can have a session where you give to Kenyans watching us online, because we need people to be exposed to even the knowledge itself. Knowing that, yes, we love Kenya, but the world as it is now, there are people working in Kenya, offering services in Kenya from other areas, but there are also Kenyans offering services who are still based in Kenya, but there are also Kenyans who can offer their services by also being in any other part of the globe, because you don't cease to be a Kenyan just because you are working elsewhere. So, Wamwere, forgive me for for the misery that begot you that time. I hope you also learned one or two things. Now, in my safari here, I told you I came here because of LSE. Because back in Kenya, I've had an opportunity to do some 2 masters in the recent past around economics. I also took up a course at the London School of Economics, because I have been in a journey of also sharpening myself as a leader. When I became the chairman of budget in Kenya, I realized that in a table where decisions are made that are too far-reaching, that affect so many Kenyans in such a deep manner, I realized sometimes decisions may be made that are not based on too much information. I'm trying to be diplomatic. And I realized it is our obligation as leaders to also look for as much knowledge as possible, because the decisions we make on the tables that we sit affect millions of people. And that is the reason why I actually went back, took 2 masters. That's the reason why I'm here, and I've taken a course at the London School of Economics. And I'll actually, even this month, I'm starting another one at Harvard University. So that I get as much as information, I sharpen my decision making as much as possible, because the difference between Kenya and so many other economies is not necessarily on the minerals or any other physical assets that we have. It is majorly based on the decisions we make as leaders, what wholesomely I would call leadership. So I'm glad to be here. Maybe you can, because I don't qualify to be a diaspora, you'll see the grade lower than you, which you can give me for being here to do what I'm doing. In Kiharu, as Janet put it, I am glad that we've been able to do something that we are all proud of as Kenyans. And I'm glad to have been at the point of doing whatever we have done. We have been serving the people of Kiharu for, this is my 2nd term. And as many of the schools that you attended in Kenya, many of course are dilapidated, many are run down, and we decided in my first term that we are going to do something to make the learners there, the pupils and the students, feel that attending school is different and an upgrade from staying at home. And we decided to invest in the infrastructure as the first phase in my first term. And we targeted primary schools to start with. Kiharu is a large constituency. We have around 112 public primary schools. It's very large. Actually, the constituency where Bula come from, because they are our neighbors, Madio and Kagema combined is the constituency, is two constituencies which are neighbors Kiharu. Combined, they are less than Kiharu in landmass, in number of schools, in population, in voters, and in all other parameters. So I'm giving this background to show that it's possible to do things. Out of 112 public primary schools in Kiharu, all of them, we have built where we needed to build new classrooms. We have renovated holistically the ones that we needed to renovate. And all of them, all the pupils in Kiharu, they step on tiles. And we started another program in January called Kiharu Masomo Bora. It's covering all day school learners in Kenya, in Kiharu, which the number is around 12,000 learners. And of all the students who attend any day school in Kiharu, all the 65 of them, including 7 we have started from scratch, all of them, they only pay 500 shillings a term. That is 3 pounds per term. Per term. And they eat in school from Monday to Saturday. We included Saturday because some also go there to for remedial classes. This may not make too much sense here in the UK, but it's good that I say it, that we make them also enjoy a meal of chapati every last Friday of the month. Maybe this is the wrong forum to talk about chapati, given I'm in London, but you guys, you all have roots in Kenya, and I believe that you associate. So I am very proud of those kind of achievements, and from the onset, let me put it very clearly. The reason we started Kiharu Masomo Bora, where learners are paying 500 shillings per term, and they eat in school, it is because we want to use Kiharu constituency as the laboratory for the entire country. And in my capacity as Member of Parliament for Kiharu, representing the people of Kenya in the National Assembly, I have taken it up as my challenge that I'm going to champion for free basic education in Kenya. And I don't want that agenda to be pushed in an election year. I want it to happen now. And I've been saying, and I want to repeat, I don't even want to throw this ball to anyone, leaders who are in higher positions than myself. I also want to be part of the solution. And what I've been proposing is very simple. In Kenya, you know, we have NGCDF, the CDF. We have money that goes to our governors, called equitable share. And then we have the national government. All of us participate in education matters. So my proposal has been very simple. Kenya has got 3 to 4 million learners in our senior secondary schools. We require only 30 billion Kenya shillings to make education in the senior secondary schools free and totally free, including the lunch program. And I am proposing that out of the money that we get at the constituency level called CDF, the country to get 10 billion shillings from there. That is 30 million Kenya shillings from every constituency, including Kiharu. So we will have 10 billion shillings from CDF. We also talk to our governors to also give up 10 billion shillings. And I'm already talking to them from the equitable share. And then the national government, out of the 4.2 trillion Kenya shillings budget, to also get 10 billion Kenya shillings. And then we form a kitty we may call Kenya Day Secondary Schools kitty. And that money is enough to make quality education accessible to all these scholars across Kenya for free without paying anything. A student in Kenya requires around 35 shillings per term, per day, sorry, for a meal per day. And they are in schools 185 days in a year. So we require around 3,000, we require around 6,500 shillings per year, per learner. And then we can top up something for the principals to do the other things they need to do in the schools, including employing BOM teachers. So I'm just here to tell you, it is possible. And I want to tell you, I will take it up, even if I'll be the only single leader in Kenya who will do it. Nimejitolea kuifanya na itafanyika. We have had learners coming all the way from Kariobangi who are studying in Kiharu, living in families hosted by strangers. I have one at a place called Gaitheri who came all the way from Kariobangi. He was a student in Dagoretti High School, but they couldn't manage because of fees. He was out of school for 2 years. Then he found his way to Kiharu. He's being hosted by a total stranger in terms of family lineage, and a person who is not too well off. But the young man, the last exam, he had a plain A. So how many more Kenyan young people are losing out and they are being locked out of our education system just because we cannot do such a thing? I believe there are many. And that is why I am just repeating, I don't want this agenda to be an election year agenda. The Kenyan budget is made in June. I want that issue to be done by that June, if not earlier, so that every Kenyan can get an opportunity to be a better workforce and to be a better provider of human capital. Now, I wrote a few things and points that I want to share with ourselves here. And I need to thank you as Kenyans in the UK, because maybe nobody has gotten an opportunity to tell you this, but I need to tell you. But the UK now is the number 2 remittances from the UK are now number 2 in Kenya as we talk. From the US, it is now you. All the others are now lower. There is a time a Gulf country almost was overtaking the UK, but of course you have roared back. And for me, when I talk about remittances in the UK, of course number 1 is the US. I also see about the quality of remittances. And we are talking this in all good faith. Kenyans like yourselves, Kenyans like the ones back at home, it is our obligation as leaders to make sure that when Kenyans come out to work in countries like the UK, the way you are doing, they do not come here to work at the lowest cadre of the opportunities. You know, for example, the Kenyans in the Gulf. When somebody tells you they work in Gulf, any country, what comes to your mind? Exactly. And I believe Kenyans are more than that. We are definitely more than that. We can do like what all of us here are doing. And that is why you see even remittance per capita, per person, the UK, the US and the UK is number 1 per capita, per person. Because the quality of money you make here is definitely better and more. The kind of jobs you do here, on average, I mean, we are not all equal even here, is much better on average than in many other areas. And therefore you need to be commended. But I also want to highlight that one thing that happened to me, and I became a very proud Kenyan, while still around here. So I got some guy from Barbados in the black taxis. And we were there in the taxi. He was not talking. As usual, you see how they, you know how they do their business and their work. But upon arriving to the place we were going, the guy, and we were just having a usual chat even at the back of the taxi. The guy asked, you guys, are you Kenyan? Then I actually thought maybe this guy is from Nairobi. Then we told him, yes, we are from Kenya. How did you know? Do you know what he told us? He responded that, you guys are so cool. I knew you are Kenyan. And please clap for yourselves, it's not me. Because that is the kind of name you have given our country even out here. Imagine we are not even talking in Swahili. We were speaking in the language that you use here. But the guy could recognize that out of the 50-something countries from Africa, that where you get cool Africans, it is from the capital of Africa called Kenya. And you guys have put Kenya in that kind of dispensation and map. I want to talk about two things which brought me here so that we can also interact. One is business, and the other one is investments. And those are the topics that when I'm not doing the public policy I'm doing, and being a public servant, I enjoy the kind of topic you gave me. Because I believe also it is a way of moving our country and our continent closer to the kind of country we have here in the UK. Business and investments. There are many other names you can give them. Entrepreneurship is some form of it, but I'll categorize them broadly into two. That is in terms of business, but also in terms of investments. And we spend much more time on the investment side. When we talk about business and we are talking generally about the economy, there are things I am sure you do, but I'm just reminding all of us to keep on doing. Because many times when we do things without foresight, we end up using a lot of, or doing so much hard work for so little return. When you go to cut some firewood and you can't take some few minutes to sharpen the axe, then you end up being so tired, doing so much hard work, which was not consequential. And I find that a lot of the time, the things we do in those two fronts, business and investments, in many areas we work so hard, get so little return, because we don't invest in knowing. We just want to do without sharpening the axe first. It is important. I have seen you are doing so well already. Champion Homes, very nice. My brother here, Councillor. Yaani wewe umekuja hapa, unaokota pesa na bado uko siasa. UK. Sante sana. This is very commendable and phenomenal. So it is important all the time when you are thinking about business, for example, we start there. You are here in the UK, but your home is in Kenya. But you want to do business. So where first of all do you want to do business? Is it here or there? And then after you know that, these two economies are very different. The demographics are very different. But also the supply chains are equally very different. And the abundances are also polars. They are opposites. While Kenya, we have abundance of labor, here in terms of accumulation of capital is much higher. So you need to think about, when you think about business, leverage about you being Kenyan, but also knowing so much about the UK. So that you decide, whatever business you do, whether it's here or there, what makes the best use of you. But more importantly, and it's something I keep on doing myself, understand the world. Understanding the world doesn't take you too long. Many times I find when we are watching football for 2 hours, the same enthusiasm, we watch football, and those who watch movies and the rest. If you took some time to also learn about the world you live in, economically speaking, that you can watch Bloomberg, CNBC, and all the other channels that sharpen your acumen of making decisions in terms of economy and business, you can only become better. What do I mean? Take, for example, how the world has been. Because all these things add up to our decisions today. The reason why I'm telling you I'm back to school, I've been back to school, is the same reason many of you have been back to school. Why do you go back to school? And especially when it's not about the pay rise. It is also to know more, to be more efficient, to make your decisions more yielding. Are we together? And I've come to understand that it's important for me to also understand how the economy of the world has been. Now we are here in the UK, very organized country, very organized city here in London, very organized. But you can tell it is a fading power. You can tell it is a fading power. And this, it's not about the UK, it's about how the world has been. So that it helps you in making decisions. Many years back, like 250 years back, or 300, Netherlands was the superpower of the world. Can you even believe that? It was the superpower, including their currency was the global reserve currency. After some years, the United Kingdom, where we are, became the superpower of the world. Of course, after the UK, the US took over. And I'm talking about superpower in terms of growth of GDP, the wealth of the people, technology, and all those things combined, including being the owner of the reserve currency at that particular time. Now you can already tell we are now headed towards Asia. We are moving towards China in terms of the versatility of the economies, whether we like it or not. It's not a matter of I like this or this. It's about how the sequence of the economy is shaping up. That helps everyone when you are making a decision to know the kind of business you need to do anywhere else. Why? Netherlands is there, bequeathed to the UK where we are. Again, the US took over. Now, we can tell there is a tussle between the US and China. Even their GDP in terms of size, the per capita one, the US is very much ahead. But in terms of the aggregate, you can see China is coming closer all the time because their growth in terms of GDP is much higher than the US. So the gap keeps on bridging. Because when number 2 is growing faster than number 1, you are reducing the gap. How does that, why am I giving all these manenos here? It helps you to know where the economy is at a particular time. An economy that is already grown like here, like the US, even the leaders, when we are elected to do different things. A leader in the US, the UK, Germany, all these other countries, you are elected to run a country. Because the country is already there, you run it. But when you are elected as a leader in a country like Kenya, many parts of Asia, the entire of Africa, you are elected to build a country. And there's a difference between building a country and running one. In Germany, it's about maintaining the infrastructure that you already have. In Kenya, it's about building critical infrastructure that is lacking. So your decision making must be very different. But also that carries along all of us as business people. And I'm also talking about it as an entrepreneur. When you are living in a country like here, the UK, the US, the UK, and also the other countries that have already advanced so much, the opportunities in those countries are very different from the opportunities in Indonesia, in Thailand, in those are the countries in Asia, but they are also very different from the opportunities we have in Kenya and Africa. As I've put it earlier, you guys, this country now, when the mayor is elected, he does not call you into barazas the way you do in Kenya. Nitaweka rami pare, mutakunywa maji. You'd think this guy is out of his mind, is it? Because he's elected to basically make sure that is done and that is working. But in Kenya, it becomes a political promise that you are going to build roads and you are going to supply water in terms of piped water. So that's not the point. The point is that all the economies of the world, how they have grown, you adopt labor-intensive industries. You grow, and pollutive industries. After you've grown and exhausted all those opportunities, you upgrade to skill-based. After you upgrade to skill-based, you then upgrade to capital-based. After you exhaust now, capital is abundant and etc., you now go to technology-driven economy. So if you draw a chart from labor-intensive, skill-intensive, capital-intensive, technology-intensive, here, UK, they are now looking at ways of doing things more efficiently. They're already there at the technology level. Kenya, we are still at labor-intensive, the lowest of the cadre. But what we must do as the African economies, including Kenya, is to do something called leapfrogging. Yes, we need to take care of abundance of labor by supplying job opportunities, because it's both a social problem and also an economic one. But leapfrogging means it's not a must you queue. When you get a queue in a hotel, you can jump the line, literally speaking. So as much as you are taking care of labor-intensive opportunities here, because they could be done more efficiently where labor is abundant, you also think about also the other categories, and especially skill-based, capital-based, and also technology-based. It's not a must that we wait for the developed countries to clear the way for us. We can be taking care of these labor-intensive industries even as we look forward to capitalizing on skill, capital, and technology-intensive industries. What is my challenge here? My challenge around there is, you are here running a company that deals with security, which needs labor. You are here like my brother, Mheshimiwa Councillor. He's running a very hugely labor-intensive industry, because BPOs, they require labor, real human beings. I'm trying to make the point closer. The worry, just to tie up this point, the worry of Elon Musk in the UK, in the US, the worry of his company is how to make a robot that does what many of us can do. That is his biggest worry, because they're already at that technology level. But now that's not where we are. We are where we need a human being to do what those other guys want to be done by a machine. And not just a machine, a computer, a machine that looks like you. So what I'm trying to tie up this point is, as we make decisions on the businesses we are doing, you are here running a security company. I was wondering when I was talking to Bureau. Most of it is looking at CCTVs, of course, alerting the security personnel. Doing all security work here is not security work back in Kenya. That's what I came to understand. It's very different. So I was just thinking in my mind, you may forgive my just thinking about money too fast. I was just wondering, how can one leverage on technology to actually be on the site while actually being in Kehancha, in Migori? That's what I came thinking. How can that security person be manning a site where they're actually in Nyando back in Kenya, but they're actually here in the UK working? Anyway, I'm just trying to say we have an economy that is labor abundant where we come from. We have an economy that has money where we are here, and that has got scarcity of labor. We must look for a way to amalgamate all those so that selfishly it works for our economy, Kenya. I say selfishly because I don't want an economy where Kenya is not left behind. That even as we make money in our individual capacities, our country is also making forward gains. We may talk more about business later. Let me jump to investments. And I talked about it globally because, as I said, I'm not in a hurry myself. Some of you may be in a hurry. I don't want us to interact later in terms of questions, opportunities back at home, etc. But I want to be more specific, more than broad, on the investment side. Hiyo ya kwanza nimewapea a lot of macroeconomics. I want now to come closer to things that are doable in terms of investments. So you are here in the UK making 300,000 shillings a month. A teacher here, I was told you can easily make 500,000 as a teacher here. So what comes to your mind then after that? How can this money work for me? I'm working so hard here, working long hours. And of course, I need much more money to sustain myself here. So even if I'm earning more, the costs are also higher than back at home. Investments. Investment to me is, I've already worked, I have money. How can this money become more? How can my 1 million become more than 1 million, which is the shortest route, which is safe? There is land. There is government boards. There is fixing money in the bank. There are SACCOs. There are so many areas that you keep hearing when you come back home. My work here is to open up ourselves that it's not just what we know. We can do more than we know. And I'll tell you why my passion is in one of the categories. And I do it. So I'm not passively teaching you something I don't do. When you make money here in the UK and you send back home, that is a remittance. Remittance, how do we actually spend our remittance back at home? When you send money, what is it for? Most of our remittance is consumer-driven remittances. We say to our parents, our brothers, our cousins, consumer-based. Is there a way we can harness the same money we are making, the same amount, and now have a configuration of the mind from remittances to FDI in a smaller way? FDI, foreign direct investments. If you tabulate the last money you sent back home, this one went to pay what? This number 2 went to pay what? Number 3. Most of the money we said is for people to consume. It is okay. But even when we are here, I think it will make more even economic advantage to all of us when we now start seeing the money we are making and sending back home from just supporting our kin and our family members into building opportunities for investment for ourselves, because that in the long run helps the economy even more. Now, when we are there now at FDI, in whichever small manner, FDI is not just about billions of dollars and pounds. Let's talk about FDI, the same money you said. So when you are sending back home for investing, and you are now based in the UK, you are talking about investing, your brother is in the US, is about investing. Do you, at any point in time, first of all, think about, you're already a global citizen. By virtue you live in London or the environs of London. You are from Kenya. You are in London. All those who are watching, they are in the US. So you are already a global citizen. And your decision making when it comes to investments must be of a global citizen. You can no longer afford to now make ignorant decisions. Ignorant decisions are the one we were told when we were leaving Sharks to come to Nairobi, before we actually now came to the UK. The decision we used to be told, a grown up, you only invest in this manner. Who told you? Your mother and your father. With all due respect, it's good to obey them. But you are more exposed now. You could actually now pass to give them more information because you are more exposed. You know better. So before you venture and you put in your money in anything to invest, please, at the line, you have the advantage many people don't have, to have a global view of things. And I'll go back to where I started now when I was giving you about Netherlands, but now closer home. When you talk about investments, you have your money here. All of you here have money. I can tell by your foreheads. So the money you are thinking of, the only thing that comes to your mind, and I love this is about homes. So when I talk about real estate, for me this is commendable, because this is already a revenue generator. I want to talk about land. Many of you have bought plots in Kenya, and in the process of buying more. I want us now to keep thinking all the time, I'm buying my fourth plot, my fifth plot. What do they become when you buy them? Because you buy, your investment is based on two things. One, regular income. Whatever you invest in, there is some regularity of what you get from it. My number two is capital gains. I bought it at this much, it has now gained up to this much. The plot you bought in 2021, can you test it using those parameters? As an income earner, but as a capital gainer. Many of you already have answers. You know, yes. Land never loses. Okay. Maybe I agree. The one you bought now, because I'm going back to Kenya, said me to get somebody to buy. And then you tell me when you're going to sell it. So, it is important we keep now thinking about more things. But that's not where I'm going. I wanted to start here up. Do we study to know, because anything you buy for investment is based on markets. Everything you buy. There is nothing you buy out of investment that is not in the market. When you buy T-bills, they are in the market. When you buy boats, they are in the market. When you fix money, they are in the market of banks, of money. You are fixing money using interest rate. That is the market. When you buy shares, they are in the market. NYSE, London Stock Exchange, Nairobi Stock Exchange, Nairobi Securities Exchange, Nigerian Stock Exchange, Johannesburg, they are based in the market. So it is, even when you are buying land, it is in real estate market. So everything is in the market. So do you take some time to study about the market you are putting in your money? First of all, start globally and how all of them are intertwined. Now we are here in the UK. Every time you hear the central bank here giving a guidance of interest rate, for the last 2 or so years, they have been lowering interest rates. When you hear about the Federal Reserve in the US, they have been, at the worst, sustaining, but at most times, they have been lowering interest rates. What does that tell you and your money in the bank? Because those are the decisions you need to keep on making for yourself. And I'm talking about this because diasporans, you have lost money by listening to so many people on things you should do for yourself. So start there first. So how is Dow Jones doing? It has now done its highest record ever on Friday. Highest ever. That is the US market, stock market. But how is the Federal Reserve behaving? When the Federal Reserve are meeting, they sustained the previous one, but the other previous one they lowered. Then somebody is wondering, kwani mtu hii vitu anasoma London School of Economics anatuletea hapa? Yes, because it's about your money. Those things is not about economics. It's about the money in your pocket. Because they should affect the way you are making decisions about your money. So when interest rates are lowered, what comes down alongside the interest rates? T-bills, bonds, some form of MMXs, some form of consolidated funds, in whichever name you call it. You know the money you pull together, then they invested for you, many of you. Even that, some of it, MMFs, they are also part of that. So keep asking yourself then, when global interest rates are coming down, what should I do with my money? That's the question I'm driving at. Is it a coincidence that when interest rates in the US are coming down, they're also coming down in the UK and the entire Europe, but even in Africa, whether you like it or not, you have to do the same as an African economy. Because, as I said, the decisions you're making as an economy are also intelligent. Intelligent meaning they are interrelated to other economies because you don't live in isolation. When the interest rates are hiked, let's say Tanzania puts up their interest rate at 10%, and Kenya interest rate is at 5%. What happens? A rational person moves their money to where the interest rates are higher. So an economy experiences something called a capital outflow. Now, that is affecting your money in many dynamics. Because it's not a coincidence when also Dow Jones interest rates are coming down in the US. On the other side, stock market is going up. Because the money we invest personally, ile yangu kidogo, yako kidogo, the retail investors across the world, they make up a very small segment of all the investments in the world. So the intelligent money is the money BlackRock is investing, Goldman Sachs, HSBC in terms of their wealth management arm. That is an intelligent money because they have many brains behind their decision making. So when the rates are coming down, they are shifting their money to other areas that have better yield. So it becomes, by consequence, the stock market. So that is, I want that to be the last jargons I am using now to come to the options themselves. So you said money back home for lad. At this particular time, you are seated here in 2026. It is the year of what? Because all investments have their own timing. Land has its own timing. Many of you made big money by buying land and selling times 10. Even me, I have done that in the past. So there is land here. There is a time you are sending money back home to buy infrastructure boards. You are earning 18%. So that's the second option. There is the third option here. You can build a flat. It is also a form of real estate. But then there is another category here called shares, stocks. And there is a last one called private equity. Those are the kind of things I would want you to keep on analyzing for yourself. Now, year 2026, when interest rates are coming down globally, I don't think it's a very good decision to then go where money there is no money. Where money is declining, you don't put money there. So you know what to do with that category. Real estate here, I mean land, not an income earner. This for me is not real estate. This for me is just the same way you can buy into any business, because it is giving you money. When you rent out this apartment, anything that gives you money is a resource that is generating you money. It's not necessarily store of value. So we are here in terms of land. So you have 6 plots in Juja Farm, and you are setting to buy a 4th one in another place. Please analyze, is this the year of real estate or the era? Era means if you trace back 2 years back and now, how is this market performing? Because it can always help you even project how it will perform. The beauty about markets, they behave the same way. The real estate, when you see real estate changes in London, in most instances, you find the same tendency in New York, in Nairobi, and many other places. So think about that. And when you are investing in real estate, my take, as a person who is here working in the UK, when you buy 10 pieces of land, moja inataka caretaker, another one to look after it, your neighbor, which you said something also to boost for security purpose. Others, somebody anamwaga mawe hapo. Another one, there's somebody fencing your plot. Ask yourself, is this still an asset, or it has started to become a liability to you? So think about that. And we are not making conclusions in this meeting. We are just provoking ourselves. So, ile deposit tumeweka to your 5th plot, unia nini? Plot ya 5. Sasa unanunua moja wapi? Kiawabogo na pale Thika. Kilimabogo. Okay, interrogate yourself. And ask yourself, how comes here in the UK, the billionaires we read about in the US, they are not so obsessed with land the way we are? How comes? That they actually buy land for fun now afterwards, like in a Bill Gates, not in terms of as a form of wealth. So that's one. Now ask yourself, is it now the era of circles? There's a community that lives here that I met over Christmas. And they were telling me about circles where you put money as diaspora. And I'm not here to talk about or against any business. Okay. When you buy shares in a circle, have you ever tried to sell them? Try. Just kama uko na 1,000 shares, tell them to sell for you 100, then you tell me how long it will take. Okay, in a company that creates shares all the time they are needed, when will the value be gotten? Because if I need 10 shares, they are created. If I need 1,000,000 shares, they are created based on the money I have. You know, scarcity is the one that gives things value. This one with full supply, when will my value ever start to grow? So think about it. Circles, you said back money home. Evaluate. There are interconnections you get. Maybe they lend you money. But purely as a form of investment, nawekaga pesa kwa circle to invest. And there is no other mutual benefit you are getting out of your relationship with the circle. Think about it. And test your ideas, sometimes practically, by giving an order. Please sell for me, I need some urgent money. And then you tell me, how urgent can you get your money? How urgently can that come? So think about it. Think about fixing money, treasury boards and bills. Is this the era? Think about it. When Fed is coming down, we see Trump is voracious on pushing the new Fed chairman to put the rates even further down. Ask yourself, is he likely to succeed? Yes. Because he's already succeeded in knocking out the Fed chair. And actually, he has succeeded already in appointing his choice. So, if there is monetary easing in the US, monetary easing meaning the interest rates are coming down. So where should your money be in that kind of an atmosphere? Think about it. Also, now get to jumping to many things which are relevant. Niko karibu kumaliza. Think about currencies as you put your money. If, for example, you fix money in a country that gives you 11%, 12%, fixing meaning not just in the bank, even T-bill and bonds, for me, they are all the same category. They guarantee you over return. So you buy bonds of 12%. Inflation could be 5%, that's fine. But is there a tendency for inflation to be stable at a period when, especially some economies are going to an election year? Those are some of the decisions you need to be doing for yourself. I'm buying bonds here, it's fixed at already 12%. Okay, in election years, have these economies I'm investing in have been able to arrest inflation for the entire period of electioneering period? Once you get the answer, it will guide you where to put your money again. Now, currency. Back home, we are talking about the dollar having, the shilling having been stable and gained since August of 2022. That's the message I'm sure you keep on hearing. But it's almost always important, don't listen to me as a politician. Information I'm giving you is verifiable online for free. Credible sites. The reason I'm throwing currency to you is because it also affects the kind how your money behaves in the next few years. So in the day of election in Kenya in 2022, the Kenya shillings to USD was 120.5. Actually, that's the day of swearing in. 120.5 shillings per greenback, per USD. Is now 130. 129 there. But what has made that, what has made the talk of, oh, we have stabilized the shilling? Can anyone make a guess why people have audacity to even come and say we have stabilized the shilling? IMF, loans. Can somebody tell me, why does the shilling seem stable against the dollar? Anyone with an idea? All this maneno I'm telling you is not about economics, it's about your money. Printing, somebody else? Let me put it because so that we cross the bridge. The reason the shilling is 130 to the dollar for over 2 years is not based on the strength of the Kenya shilling. It is based on the weakness of the dollar. When you do like this, there's a lever here, like this, you put weight. When you put weight here, my brother, nishikie hapa. Yes, I want to demonstrate something so that it also helps in our decisions about our money. Now this, you used to do this in your primary schools. Don't look at me like you were born here. So we used to sit here and another boy here. Seesaw. So boy mubig agekaa hapa, wewe ulikuwa unaenda wapi? Juu. What does that mean? Mwenye ako juu ako? Now, if some of these things, keep on verifying for yourself, because they'll betray your decision making about investments if you make a wrong turn. The dollar in 2025, the dollar lost 10% against a basket of all other global currencies. The dollar. You know, people are wondering, how can the dollar lose? The strength of a currency is always relative to. There is no strength of a currency. It is relative to something. So dollar is now the global reserve. So all the other currencies are measured relative to the dollar. Now, the the Federal Reserve, the US president started showing signs of this Federal Reserve is part of the executive of the US. The markets responded. The market responded by just viewing the Federal Reserve as not as independent as the markets thought. The markets believe that a global currency should be independent of the whims of politicians. So when the market started to realize that, so a politician can actually force in somebody to be the chair, and the talk started about, we can get you out, Powell. Then the market started admitting that into the strength of the dollar. And the dollar, you can, some of this information verify later. The dollar rose 10%. So when you hear a Kenyan politician talking about, we have stabilized the shilling, first of all, it has lost from 2022, from 120 to 129. But more importantly, the shilling ought to have gained by 10% the loss of the dollar in the year 2025 alone. Do you want to verify that? Look at how much were the Kenya shillings how much were the Kenya shillings against the euro in the year 2022 in August. Just check. The same day the dollar was 120 shillings, the euro was 116. Listen to me carefully. The same day the dollar was 120.5. Kenya shillings to the dollar was 120.5. The same day the euro was 116. How much is the euro now? Check. Kenya shillings to the euro today. Somebody just check online. $153. Now, that day, the shilling was 120.5 to the dollar in August 2022. The British pound was 136. How much is it now? You know better off the head. 175. Is that a loss or a gain? It's a loss. It's a gain to you sending back money home. But it's a loss to our economy. You get what I mean? So I'm just telling you this because as you make decisions about your money, your source of information should not be a conflicted person who is a politician. It should be verifiable information. Because even if you, this is the reason I'm telling you about currencies. You fix money at 12% per annum. Let's not use our country for patriotism's sake. Let's use Uganda. And we assume the same dynamics persist. I hope you've gotten the dynamics. That the money you use here was 136. Can you do for me 175 minus 136? I want to see the percentage loss in the last 3 years. 175 minus 136 divided by 136. Now listen to these guys. No, you take 10 million. Huku UK watu hawapumui because you bought a boat in Uganda, eh? We are not using that those other areas. No, we can't use Kenya. Kenya is a very good country. So you fix money through a boat because it's the same way. I mean, fixing money, buying boats is all the same. So can you divide by that 28 divided by 3? Mnajua kwa nini nafanya hii? I want to see annual. How much? 9. So by just keeping your money in the bank as British pound, you have evaded to lose 9% in that Uganda we are talking about. So if you bought a boat at 12%, it means your real gain is what? If you bought a boat at 12% per annum, 3%, now put in the inflation of 4%. So all I'm triggering our mind As you make your investment decisions, look at all those dynamics. The very last one, then I sit and we interact. Mimi, of all those other things we've talked about, I advocate for two more than all the others. One is called buying listed shares. I advocate for two, and I tell you the reason. I'm not telling you to start doing, I'm just telling you start considering them. When I buy shares, what am I buying? Okay, when I buy a board, what am I actually doing? Do you know what you are doing? When you buy a board, what do you think you are doing? You are lending money to the government. What do we keep on telling you? The government never? Very good. This is risk-free, total risk. Here, do you have friends from Ghana in this country? I hope they invested in their government boards. Some time back, 2 years back. What is the story now from them? Can they do that anymore? How the sequences of the economies run. After every 50 years, there is always a debt reset across the globe. So it's always good to time your economy you are investing in, because you may be born in the 49th year. So, and the 50th year is next year. You could also be on the 42nd. So you have experience of 7 years. So no one can tell you anything. Where I've been investing in these things. What can you tell me? Now, debt across the world, if you study over 500 years, there is always a reset of debt. And I can tell you, in our country, Kenya, currently we are borrowing 4 billion shillings every single day on net basis. I'm saying the debt of Kenya is growing by 4 billion Kenya shillings every day, including today, on net basis. Net basis means, sijahesabu the one they borrowed to pay you the one they had borrowed. That one is gross. I'm talking about net. So all the economies have shown that truth is never perpetually safe and sustainable all the time. It is not possible. Because our debt has now grown from 8.7 trillion Kenya shillings from 2022 to now over 12.5 trillion Kenya shillings. And that money I'm talking about is not for roads. The money we are, as Kenya, we are borrowing, the money we are building roads with is another loan we are borrowing called securitization. It's not part of this 12.5. It's another one we are calling revenue-backed and asset-backed. So it's not included. It is off the book loan. It's not in the book. It's off. The money we are doing the railway with is also off the book securitization of the railway levy. So I'm talking about we are adding 4 billion Kenya shillings every day, most of which is not going to development. It is going into the recurrent. It means they are not going to investing. When you take a loan and you buy this flat can pay itself. Because you just need a deposit of mortgage, the rent will pay the mortgage until the house becomes yours, is it? But when you take a loan to go and watch AFCON in Morocco, are you going to get anything out of that in terms of tangible money? Exactly. So that is how it is. So we cannot do that perpetually. But we should talk about very good things happening in Kenya. So let me shift. But you've gotten what you've gotten. It is never perpetually at the safe. Oh, government boards. Ah, very nice. Ghanaians, your friends. Do you know what happened? Their government told all the debtors, guys, I know I owe you 1 million shillings. But from today, I owe you 700,000. It's called a haircut. Yes, economically it's called a haircut. You'd go to the court, okay, you are given even. And you know what they do? They do that to domestic. Because foreigners may constrain other things for future funding. So domestic, it's me and you. And NSSF and the rest. Is it? When the government tells you, I know I owe you 1 million, but from today, you're taking a haircut of 30%. go to the Supreme Court, they give you even all that you need to recover your money. So utachota GK hivyo kama utafanya nini? So what I'm trying to say is, there is no totally safe investment. Test it across all the other risks. The risk may not have happened in the last 8 years, but maybe it will happen in the next 2. That's what I'm trying to say. So the reason I prefer these last 2. One is shares. Why? I understand it. Straightforward. I don't need to send anyone back home money that it will invest for me. I'll send to my own stockbroker from the UK direct. And I write an email giving them an order to buy me my own shares. Or they'll actually give me an online platform. I trade for myself. So I don't need intermediaries. That's tick number 1. Secondly, the question I asked you, when you are buying those other things, this one you are lending to government. When you are fixing money, you are actually giving the bank a liability. The money you get out of giving your deposits in a bank, you're also lending the bank, in quotes. That's why they give you a motivation of 12%, because you are lending the bank. Are you getting me? Higher. So all this is lending. But I'm lending to a third party. Government is a third party. Bank is a third party. Okay, but you are told what? They are risk-free. Okay, fine. Sawa. Okay. When I'm buying shares, this is how I see it. If you have 100 of these bottles, that carton is called a company. When one bottle is yours, and one bottle is my brother's, and cancel the other bottle, so we have 1 share each in that carton. That is basically it. That, I know when I'm buying 1 share, I'm buying the value of that company. I am a part owner. So, is this the era of shares? In my opinion, much more in Kenya. The Dow Joneses are hitting the roof. They are recording their bestest years, if there is such a word. Because they have hit 50,000 Dow Jones on Friday. I think today it still went higher. But in Kenya, companies are trading for bargain. And I'll give you a few examples. Because when you are buying shares, don't buy a share, buy the company. In your mind, unajua nanunua hii kampuni. So that even if you buy 1 share, you are buying the company. Take any share listed in the NSC. Just shout one. Safaricom, any other? Let's start Safaricom. Safaricom was 45 shillings in the year 2021. Today it was 32. They have invested in Ethiopia. They have now started showing signs Ethiopia is recovering from bleeding cash to being a tap, bringing in money into the company. So use that information. Any other? Equity Bank. Equity Bank, their core capital, the worth of the bank, vis-a-vis how it is trading in the market, it is trading at 25% discount. That is, the share, if you buy all the shares of equity, vis-a-vis the company, if it was to wood up today, the money the owners would get, you are buying it for 75% of the value. Any other? Kenya Power. Kenya Power made 24 billion last year in net profit. 24 billion. The entire Kenya Power is valued for 30 billion. What more do I need to tell you? Are you getting what I'm saying? So these things I'm saying, they are not jargons. They are real things that you must use in your decision making. Kenya Power made 24 billion last year. Can you just even think that? They are worth 30 billion. that if diasporas in the UK bought it today, in 1.5 years, you've recovered all your money. Are you getting? Any other? Kenya Airways is, okay, every area, there is no sure bet in investments. I hope you know that. Kenya Airways could be one of those. Is it? Out of the basket of many, it's operating on negative capital. Let me not talk about it. Yeah. Any other? I want you to give me the ones you know. Kenyari. East African breweries. And I'm looking at it in terms of value. Me, I look at it like I'm buying the company. EABL trading at maybe 250 shillings today. Asahi Group in Japan are buying from Diageo 65% of EABL for how much? 590 shillings a share. You know, the reason I'm telling you these things is to show you the market in Kenya is deep. As we see the other markets flaring up, there are markets that are still depressed. And a depressed market is a good market for the buyer, not the seller. Are you getting? So it's, I know some of you bought shares when they are very high. That's your problem. We are now talking about the current buyers. Are you getting me? Tell me any other. Kengen, they made a profit of 10.6 billion last year. Their entire market capitalization is 60 billion. Their assets is 500 billion. They have assets of 500 billion shillings. No, you know why I'm telling you these figures? Look at yourself like you're buying the entire Kengen. Would you even think twice? Would you think even twice? Have that mentality when you're buying shares. Any other, the last one? Kenyari. Now listen to this story. Kenyari, they have been making a profit of like 5 billion shillings on average. Their market capitalization, the entire world, if you bought all the shares of Kenyari, you'd spend 17 billion. So don't say about the billions. When I say about five, just say, okay, he's talking about 5 million, but the company is worth 17 million. Bring it down. Even me, that's what I do to see it with my eyes, not with the big figures. So a company making 5 billion, but is valued at 17 billion. It's making net profit of 17. Second thing, these fellows have no loan, zero. They have no one they owe even an overdraft. That their cash and cash equivalent. Listen, cash and cash equivalent, do you know what that means? Money fixed in the bank, the money lying in the bank, and the ones in T-boats, T-bills and boats. Those are cash and cash equivalent. Is anything that you can turn into cash like this. That's why they are called cash and cash equivalent. They have 41 billion. That doesn't sound real. A company is valued at 17 billion. That if you bought all the shares today, it would cost you 17 B. And the entire Kenyari ifungwe kama nyama, uwekewe ni yako. Upon going home and kufugua ile nyama, the cash and cash equivalent alone, pesa, ulirealize si nyama tu walifunga, hapa kado, wameweka kitu, pesa, is 41 billion and is part of the 17 you paid. Yani, umenunua nyama ya 170 shillings. Quarter. Umeshika? 170 shillings. Kufika nyumbani kwenye uliwekewa, kufugua, nyama iko ile ulinunua. Because the company is still there. But then you realize, there is money that is 410,000. No, 410 shillings. It's part of the package. I know it doesn't sound credible. In other words, you buy a flat for 17 million. So you bought the flat. And inside the flat, one side has a factory. So it's not just a flat, it is a going concern. But upon opening the door in the sitting room, and you bought it at 17 million. In the sitting room, you get a bag with 41 million. That is how some of these companies are grossly undervalued. Any other, the last one? And I'm saying you mention any because I don't want it to sound like they are just a few. BAT hadn't done analysis. Pipeline. Kakuzi, their asset in terms of land alone, their worth is a fraction. But I'm not telling you to go. I hope you guys are already now very sophisticated. I'm throwing the ball to your court to go and analyze so that you get the very best of them. And also there are many parameters you look at. If it's land, an agricultural company may be very high in terms of value of land, but may be less in sustainable profit. If it's banks, banks are spread in Kenya. They are money-making machines. They are profitable. They pay dividends. And why I buy shares is, I'm not buying some hot thing. If I buy equity share today and it falls, remember my value doesn't fall. It is the market that is falling, not my worth. That's how I look at it. Because I'm not there to sell tomorrow. If I buy equity shares today, let's say I have 2% of Equity Bank, I'd never care where the share price is going. I care about the value. The value of a company is not just based on the share price. It is based on other things. So what I'm just trying to say is that when you buy shares today, the real value you are buying is much higher than the amount you are paying in terms of the share. The real value. So I'll add it there, but after here now, because I believe this is the period of shares myself. But I'm checking to see whether signals will come to show me the exit. I am hoping by close of 2026, we'll be seeing the sunset of shares in terms of as a good investment. The information I've given you, we already have even dumped the share price, so there'll be no advantage. Because remember, you gain out of the ignorance of others. So when the information percolates into the value of something, then you have nothing more to gain. So after there, you go to private equity. What is private equity? After you make all the money this one you've made in the stock market, you are now done. You bought your Kenya Power, you've done times 10. Now you get out. After you get out, I still invest in companies because I believe that's the only way to get the real value. There's no Forbes billionaire who is there because they own land. None. Not even one. Can I tell you, Donald Trump, his worth of the truth media, which is Ross making he started, is more than his entire portfolio of real estate. What does that tell you? You know Trump Tower and all those things. The Trump media, ile yake, he has, the stake is higher in value than Trump Tower. Are you getting my brother? Yes, please try to. The entire Forbes list, Elon Musk, is about SpaceX, Tesla. But what? Owning stakes in a company that's growing. Remember, when you buy Trump Tower, even if you live for 100 years, it will never add one more floor on top. Never. Only the rent will grow. Unless you build another Trump Tower on the side. When you buy HSBC Bank, if they have possibility of opening their branch in Kenya, that's growth. When I buy Equity Bank shares, they have capacity, even to have a London office. That's more money. They have ability to expand to West Africa, to South Africa. But when I buy a static asset that has no life, has no growth. So look for. So I go to private equity afterwards. Why? When you exhaust opportunities in the market, remember I talked about markets. The more the liquid the market is, the rest the opportunities. That's what you never realize. Money is the most liquid form. So, can you buy me? Can I sell a pound for pound? Is that even fathomable? Yani, it has reduced the opportunities of us making money, out of the liquidity of money. So the more the liquid a market is, the more the information bridges the gap quite fast. And therefore, it evens up. So once you are done with market opportunities, I call them low-lying fruits. Right now, I can't buy a company off the market because why would I? The ones in the market are so cheap, and I require very little sophistication to buy. If I need to start an insurance company with my little money, why should I start when I have one Kenyari, which is so cheap in terms of value per share that even the one I will start is still more expensive than this one? Why? If you have money to start a bank in Kenya, why would you have bank? How? At you are going to CBK to kujaza forms, I want to start a bank. How? When you have KCB trading at half the value, I would rather buy 0.5% of KCB. I'm an owner of a bank. I don't need to own 100% of a bank I'm starting today, valued at my money shilling per shilling. Let me go to KCB, buy 0.5% of KCB, but at what price? 50 cents per shilling. Or I go to Equity, I don't need to start a bank, go to Equity Bank, I'll be buying one for 75 cents per shilling. And for every 1 shilling I'm given, I am paying 75 cents. Or, better still, I go and buy Diamond Trust Bank. Why? Its core capital of 100 billion. The current share price, if you bought all of it, is 35% of the entire value. So why would I start a bank? How? Just buy the ones that are there, cheaper, very cheap. What am I trying to emphasize? Markets have undervalued these assets. So it's an opportunity for buyers. You don't need to start anything new. Buy the one that exists. Look at, for example, this issue you're talking about EABL. I don't buy EABL shares, but let us use it as an example. You are here setting up your own EABL, calling it Omwami Brewers Limited. Is it? But you have one here trading at half the price. Why can't I own even 1% of this one that is so cheap, other than owning this other one, which I'm paying a shilling per shilling? So when I exhaust the market opportunities, when you exhaust the market opportunities, the listed ones, then you go to the non-listed ones. With your money, muna combine wachache, then by that time, come to Kenya, buy a stake in an unlisted insurance company. Why? Because by that time, the tide will have changed. The one in the market will have absorbed all the information, so they'll be more expensive. So you go to private equity where you can negotiate. So you go, other than just building flat per flat, this and that. Sorry. You munaugana wachache, munachanga pesa, you buy a stake in a company. Buying a stake, buying a shareholding in that microfinance, buying a stake in that IT company, non-listed one. So you give in your money, this grows the business, your value grows. That's how private equity works. Very lastly, this insurance company here, it wants to expand. Let's say they have capital of 50 million Kenya shillings. They need to expand, but they also need more capital to expand. So the owner does what? The owner sells 10% of this diaspora insurance. For how much? 10% he sells it for 10 million shillings. Automatically, that now values diaspora insurance for 100 million. Because if 10% is 10, then 100% is 100. So they expand to many other regions. They are now doing very well. The same diaspora, now the new owners come back. They say, no. We need to expand even to Switzerland. There are diasporans there. We need to set up offices in Kenya. Then you say, in fact, we need a Kenyan license. We need a Kenyan license. So Kenyan license is how much? This much. So what do? You come together. To raise money, what do? You sell a stake. 20%, let's say for, figuratively, 100 million. If you sell a company 20% stake for 100 million, what does that tell you about the value of the entire company? Is it how much? If 20% is 100 million, so what's the 100% of the company? So 500 million. The owner no longer owns 100%. The owner now owns 40%. But 40% is much higher than the 100% they had. So my challenge is in terms of private equity, don't be in an obsession to own a fish pond. Just own a slice of the ocean. All billionaires, that's how they became billionaires. Not by owning fish ponds, but by owning just a slice of ocean resources. Thank you very much, guys.
That was amazing. Thank you very much. Wow. What a mind-boggling presentation. Thank you very much. You can have a seat. Wow. I feel like I've just been in a investment roller coaster, you know? And some of us have really stagnated in our investment knowledge. And thank you very much, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, for bringing this education forum for us, because as far as I'm concerned, it has opened a lot of our enthusiasm about what we need to do as Kenyans, but more so seeing ourselves, not just putting all our investment back home, but also thinking about how can we be global investors. Did you feel that? How can we be global investors? So thank you for creating this time, because we know you're an economist, you're an expert. We've seen you in terms of a personal investment. You've done very well. It's all listed in Kenya. And such knowledge doesn't come easily for us in the diaspora. We work hard. We need to know that bit of, educated investor. Wow, I am really inspired. But before we move on to my question, I would love to have you sitting down here. There's 2 ways that you want to, or 3 ways that you'd like to ask your question. Is it investment in Kenya or investment in general? Is it about Kenya in terms of, you've seen what we've done in education in Kiharu? Is it that? Ask a question. I'm going to give maybe 3-4 people to ask question first. Make it very quick, because we'd like to have at least everybody who's sitting there and those online, because we do have some questions coming in online. We would like to give a lot of people opportunity. So let us start with those ones who've already given, put their hands up.
Thank you very much. My name is Moirori Daniel. A few call me by the initials, MD. Member of Parliament, Ndindi Nyoro, thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. I actually have so many questions, some we can take offline, but for now, maybe just 2. One of them being, in terms of markets, and we are talking about the Nairobi Stock Exchange, we know that part of the markets is driven by what is happening in the government, politics, etc. And given that 2027 is an election year, as someone who's making investment decisions, how do you then overlay the political environment to the investment decisions that you're making? And linked to that is also the point about inflation, foreign exchange, etc. So there are 2 things here. One, on one hand, we have been encouraged to invest in Kenya, which is great, and we are doing that. Number 2, at the same time, we are thinking about, okay, fine, I'm going to invest in Kenya, but lose maybe 9% because of FX rate, another 4% because of inflation. In the end, what is your benchmark net adjusted investment return that you should be thinking about to make such a decision? And then, of course, we, the young people, are focusing on even much more sophisticated investments like cryptocurrency, commodities, etc., and quite a bit of investment even in land back in Kenya. I sell land in Kenya, and I have a challenge around land because my uncle, when I was in high school about 20 years ago, bought a piece of land at around 20,000 per acre. is now going for over 2 million. You can work out the adjusted returns, even though unrealized. Now, if you look at your S&P 500, NSE index, your FTSE 100, that is the UK stock exchange, you don't get such returns. So this is also a place for land in the whole investment spectrum. And in summary, the way I look at it is the best investment, first of all, is in yourself. I think you get the best returns by investing in yourself. Then once you're done with that, you think about diversification. So you put a slice of investments in stocks, another slice in land, a slice in private business. So the totality of that is a well-diversified portfolio that then makes sure that, you know, shocks from different areas do not 100% impact your investments. So for now, I'll post at that, but maybe comment about politics versus investment. That's very important. Number two, talk about the newer investment frontiers like crypto, commodities, etc. And number three, there's a place for land, to be honest, and we cannot ignore it. Back to you.
Thank you. Give it up for him, guys. And well thought of questions. I do have a hand up here.
Thank you, Janet. Yeah, sure, I'll be very, very quick. Thank you, Ndindi Nyoro, for sharing with us the knowledge. My question goes to, first of all, my name is Boniface. I am an entrepreneur here in the UK and also in Kenya. My question goes to the education department, whereby you said 30 plus billions you can propose to have free education, which is a very good step, considering it was an initiative that was started by the late Moi Kibaki. Question is, we know every kit that is set in Kenya, it's a basket for corrupt leaders. How will you handle is there any accountability that you put in place to ensure that money is not lost? Two, you are creating a good environment for the learners. In the world of technology, are you putting in place the 30 billion plus to have slot for technology, because that's where the world is heading? Thank you, and I welcome you and the rest to buy a stake from my company. Thank you.
That is Django Dwellers.
Thank you very much. My name is Mrs. Monica Gakwo, and I really, really appreciate this time because I'm one of those people who watch you on YouTube, and I really feel like it's just what I've been hearing. So my question is, I am a mother of young people, Gen Z and millennial, and these are people that were born in this country or when they came very, very young. And these are people who are not familiar with this kind of information. And I hear that you're working with young people, and I've watched you in the universities and such places. So I'm asking you, as a honorable, prominent person from Kenya who is there for young people, how can you support our young people here? Can you create a mentorship program where we can have a few of our young people coming there, they learn and they exchange ideas, you know, they bring the ideas, they have learned, most of them have finished universities, but most of the time they find that they don't do the courses, I mean the jobs that they learned. So how can we bridge that difference, especially for those ones who are from Kenya, but they're actually British people? Thank you very much.
Open the door for work experience. Thank you for that.
Hello again. I think I was given the mic before and I didn't introduce myself. My name is Jane Mukabi. I'm a businesswoman, probably one of the oldest or the only woman to start a security company before the Murashias and Jore there. A comment first or two. I think one is a campaign. I think I want to campaign for UK to be called the top in remittances. When you look at the size of UK, it's the size of Texas. We are about 60 to 70 million. The US has 360. So if we are number 2, I think we need to do the maths and start calling the UK the highest remittance, wherever. The other one I would like to comment on is you did talk about us employing Kenyans, which we are doing, but it's a very difficult job.